We've got enormous challenges in this country, and the last thing we need to do is focus on the soap opera of different candidates. What people are interested in is the challenges facing their family and their children. What people are interested in is the millions of Americans who are out of work, who are in stagnant wages, who are hurting under the Obama economy. What people are interested in is the millions of Americans who've lost their health care under Obamacare. The fact that the federal government is assaulting our constitutional rights, and the manifest disaster that is the Obama-Clinton foreign policy. In my view, every candidate should address everyone else with respect and civility. That is the standard I endeavor to follow, and I hope that every other candidate does as well. But this campaign is going to remain focused on the issues and priorities that matter to the American people, reigniting the American dream.
Senator, do you have any problems where Mr. Trump has stood on the issues, not necessarily personality or style?
I am always happy to discuss issues, and when it comes to issues, I'm very glad that Donald Trump has helped focus the media's attention on the problem of illegal immigration. Illegal immigration has been an issue I've been leading on for many, many years, leading the fight to secure our borders, leading the fight to end sanctuary cities, leading the fight to pass Kate's Law, leading the fight to stop the Obama administration's indefensible practice of releasing criminal illegal aliens into the general populace. This is a critically important issue. I think one of the reasons you've seen the excitement that Donald Trump has generated is that he has managed to finally get the media talking about illegal immigration, a priority for a great many Americans. I've been proud to lead that fight for a long, long time, and I intend to continue to lead that fight. And if I'm elected president, as president, we will finally secure the borders and end sanctuary cities.
Senator, talking about the issues, where you're out now from Ferguson, there's the FBI now investigating that shooting at Arlington in your home state of Texas.
Yes.
You talked yesterday about President Obama inflaming the racial divide in this country, but what do you plan to do to try to heal some of these racial tensions that we're seeing across America? And how much of an important issue is that to you?
Well, I think we need a leader, we need a president who brings us together, who doesn't seek to divide us, to tear us apart, to turn us against each other on racial lines, on gender lines, on class lines, but instead finds ways to unify. As I shared yesterday, there was an opportunity to do that with the horrible church shooting that happened in Charleston. And every one of us, particularly those of us who are Christians, was in particular horrified that anyone could come into a church, sit down and pray for an hour with 9 other people, and then pull out a gun and murder the people he was praying with. That is a level of evil that is difficult to comprehend. And within days, the response of the families of those murdered at the Emmanuel AME Church, when the families said, "We forgive this murderer, this hateful, racist bigot, we forgive him." That took your breath away. I mean, what an amazing demonstration of Christian love. What a powerful testimony. And what an opportunity if the president had simply taken that to shine the light on the forgiveness of the families and to say, listen, there will always be those who commit acts of evil, but this is an opportunity for us to come together, to mourn together as one, as Americans, but also to reflect on all the things that bring us together. I hope we see in the next president a president who works every day to unify us behind our shared values. You know, it's one of the reasons when I'm traveling on the campaign trail why I tell my father's story so often. My dad, as you know, is my hero. But it also is a story that binds all of us together. All of us as Americans, what brings us together is we are the children of those who risked everything for liberty. That's the fundamental DNA of what it means to be an American. And I think we need to return to appealing to our common values, our values that stitch us together across racial lines and ethnic lines and class lines and party lines. That's what this campaign is working to do.
Senator, one more question. As you may know, one of your opponents in this race has kind of makes the argument that there are fights that he's led, but also he adds fights that he's won. And I'm kind of curious to get your direct kind of response to that. You don't have to use his name, but just a sense as to kind of what specific fights would you point to? Not only that you've led, because we talked about those a bunch, but the ones that you actually feel like you succeeded and have changed policy outcomes because of the fight.
Well, I think there are a great many examples of that, both before I was in the Senate and afterwards. Before I was in the Senate, I was the Solicitor General of Texas, the chief lawyer for the state in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. We defended the Ten Commandments monument on the state capitol grounds, went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and won 5-4. We defended the Pledge of Allegiance, the words "one nation under God," went to the Supreme Court, won unanimously. We defended the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, went to the Supreme Court, won 5-4. We defended U.S. sovereignty, standing up to the World Court and the United Nations, and even President George W. Bush, and won 6-3. And indeed, in private practice, I was very proud to represent over 3 million veterans, pro bono, for free, defending the Mojave Desert Veterans Memorial, a lone white Latin cross erected over 70 years ago to honor the men and women who gave their lives in World War I. We defended that Veterans Memorial, went to the Supreme Court, and won 5-4. As you know, that was a lot of the reason I was elected to the Senate, because I had a long, proven record of standing and fighting for conservative principles and winning over and over and over again. But fast forward to the Senate. We had fight after fight after fight in the Senate where we won. The first major fight of my tenure was the fight to defend the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Following the tragic shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, President Obama and Harry Reid led an assault, not on going after violent criminals, which is what they should have done, but instead going after the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens. And I led the fight to protect the Second Amendment in the U.S. Senate, and we defeated President Obama's efforts to undermine our rights. Another example that played out not long after that was Chuck Schumer and the Democrats' amnesty proposal, where they came out with a massive amnesty proposal. It was striking in Cleveland that a majority of the candidates on that stage have all previously advocated for amnesty. I have never supported amnesty. I've always opposed amnesty, and I was proud to help lead the fight to defeat President Obama's amnesty proposal. I stood side by side with Senator Jeff Sessions in defeating amnesty. I'll point to, with regard to Israel, when President Obama and the FAA banned flights into the nation of Israel, I publicly called out whether that was an economic boycott on the nation of Israel. Within 36 hours, they lifted the flight ban on the nation of Israel. And indeed, I'll point to something else that is particularly relevant here in Chattanooga. Chattanooga sadly joins the many communities across this country that have been the victims of radical Islamic terrorism, something the men and women here understand very personally. Well, Texas unfortunately shares that experience, and Fort Hood, which I'm proud to represent, was the site of a terrorist attack over 5 years ago, Nidal Hasan, and for over 5 years, the Obama administration refused to acknowledge that that was radical Islamic terrorism. Instead, they characterized it as workplace violence. Well, I'll tell you, I was proud as the senator from representing Texas to introduce legislation mandating that the soldiers who were murdered at Fort Hood by Nidal Hasan would be eligible for the Purple Heart and would receive the Purple Heart. The Obama Pentagon fought me on that. They opposed it tooth and nail. I was incredibly encouraged to earn the support of both Democrats and Republicans on the Senate Armed Services Committee. We passed it into law in December, and in April of this year, 5 years too late, but in April of this year, finally, those soldiers were awarded the Purple Heart. I think the test that primary voters are going to apply for every candidate is they're not looking for a campaign conservative. They're not looking for someone who talks a good game on the campaign trail. They want someone who's walked the walk. They want someone who is a proven, consistent conservative, the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I think that's the reason why we're seeing such incredible enthusiasm for our campaign. We've seen over 225,000 people come online to tedcruz.org, contribute online, support the campaign. It has been incredible.
It's
I'll
about
tell
the
you.
Constitution.
Amen.
All about the Constitution.
Amen.
What he says he will do.
It's about the
Repeal
young,
Obamacare.
for the young, for her.
You know, it really is striking to our friends in the media. I want you to listen to the comments that were just made. It's about the Constitution. We want someone who will do what he says he will do. And it's about the young. It's about her future.
Yes, sir.
You know what? I can't possibly say it any better than they have.
Senator, I have a question for you.
We've got to go,
We
guys.
gotta
The
wrap it up.
Million Man March is coming in October. How do you feel about that, the Million Man March and Louis Farrakhan coming to Washington, D.C.?
Well, listen, I encourage everyone to stand up for greater opportunity. You know, one of the most unfortunate things about the Obama economy the last 6 years is the people who have been hurt the most have been the most vulnerable among us. It's been young people, it's been Hispanics, it's been African Americans, it's been single moms. When you have economic stagnation, it's not the rich who get hurt. Actually, today, the rich, the top 1%, earn a higher share of our income than any year since 1928.
Absolutely.
What has gone away is economic mobility. What's gone away is the ability of people like my dad. You know, in 1957, my father was a teenage immigrant. From Cuba, he couldn't speak English. He was washing dishes, making 50 cents an hour. It's the teenage immigrants washing dishes that have been hurt so terribly under the Obama administration. It's the African American community which has paid an incredible price for economic stagnation. And it is my hope in this election that we return to the free market principles that produce a vibrant economy, that produce small businesses creating jobs, creating opportunities, so young teenage African Americans can get their first job and their second job and can get married and start providing for their kids and have a better future. None of that happens with economic stagnation. And so I encourage everyone, stand up to reignite the promise of America. Stand up to expand the opportunity for all of us to achieve the American dream. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you. So appreciative of you.
God bless. God bless.
bless you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you.
Senator Cruz.
Great answer.
Thank you very much.
God
sir.
bless you, sir.
God bless you.
Thanks for not being a rhino. We appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, David.